Hey guys, Ronnie Sokash here, Landscape Architecture 1920, talking about the final project. And the final project the award-winning project that I chose was the Louis Children's Hospital in downtown Chicago. It is the Crown Sky Garden on the 13th floor. And the reason why I chose this project was because when my sister was a year old, she had gruesomely broken her thumb, and my parents had to rush her to the hospital. Now, I wasn't even born. However, at the hospital, my sister was given immediate great care, and my parents were also taken great care of. And so the experience altogether was a pretty positive one for my parents and my sister. And the reason why I know so much about the story is because my parents would always commend the hospital and say things like, when a child is in the hospital, it's almost as traumatic or even more traumatic for the parents than it is for the child. And so my parents were always commending the hospital and talking about how great the experience was, and that raised my opinion of children's hospitals in general. So I was really excited to see when I looked through the 2013 award-winning projects that there was a children's hospital available. And what makes this one more special is that it is a sky garden, and basically the sky garden is the same thing as a green roof, except it's enclosed. And this one it connects with the previous lectures in class because it's in Chicago. As we learned earlier, Chicago Mayor Daley in the early 2000s made City Town Hall a green roof, and he also started the green movement in Chicago altogether, where we saw green roofs popping up all over Chicago. And so I thought it really connected with the previous lectures we learned about, and I was really excited to get started. And so basically it started off with an international search for a landscape architect that ended up with this woman right here, McYoung Kim. She and a team of 7 other landscape architects worked together for about 3 years to come up with the design of the Sky Garden. There are a few interesting, you could say, difficulties that they had to work with. First of all, they were in a hospital, and so that's tough because when you're designing a garden, you think dirt, there may be some bacteria or worms, things like that. They couldn't have any of that, and so they really had to design the garden in a special way. So one of the designs they made actually was potting the plants and things like that above ground, kind of like in higher pots, to where the ground itself was not in contact with dirt, and then the walls surrounding were not in contact with dirt. And so that was really interesting. Also, it was in the middle of a city. It was in the middle of Chicago. It's an urban setting. You know, usually you don't see that, just a green roof in general. However, they were in Chicago, which meant that the green roofs were sprouting all over the place, and they could really adapt to the surroundings. So the reason why Lures wanted to do this was that they wanted to conduct an experiment, and so recent data was showing that green space and meditative areas in hospitals, when patients are exposed to those areas, their stress levels are reduced, and so is their recovery time. And so they wanted to test to see if they exposed their patients to this green meditative area to see if their recovery time would lessen, and they would get out of the hospital quicker, and their stress levels would reduce. And so basically, they created this garden hoping that children would go into the garden and it would be an escape for them. They would really become one with nature and really appreciate the area that they're in, because it's a place you can't really find in many other places, where it's not only just a green space, a green roof, but it is covered by glass panels, and it's just beautiful. There's one picture here I have where, although it's in black and white, you get a pretty good idea there we go. That is Chicago at night, the Sky Garden at night. And so you see I have little arrows pointing towards it. And it's just I think it's a terrific project. I think that they're going to learn that their hypothesis is going to be proven right, because I know through my own experiences, going for walks, bike rides, things like that can reduce my stress level. So I feel that hopefully these children will see the same benefits. And so moving on, the Sky Garden was built in 2012. Was completed. It won the award for Best Design through the ASLA in 2013. As I said before, it was built after this green movement that Mayor Daley really wanted to implement, and that kind of brought it all together. I feel like this was the cherry on top, or the culmination of all the previous green movements in the early 2000s, leading up to Chicago being so progressive in the end. And so it's located on the 13th floor, and that makes it pretty obviously high up. As we see in the picture, it's literally in the sky, and that makes it a lot different than a lot of other projects that we see. Um, as far as how they built it, there were a lot of innovative lighting features, such as there's a serpentine wall that runs throughout the garden, and that is different because the lighting fixtures are actually just different colored marbles in the serpentine walls, and that makes that pretty interesting as far as it's not natural light, as far, there's no flowers, things like that, but it's pretty colorful and it's really stimulating for the children, helps them get lost in the garden itself. And so, while I feel like that's not my favorite part of the garden, I feel like I would rather have more flowers and plants to create natural light. The overall structure of the garden with the natural light coming through the glass panels, and the bamboo trees, and also the serpentine wall itself is a different design, and the overall ability for these patients to be able to escape the reality in their hospital rooms and come to a garden where they can just forget about their problems for a little bit, and help reduce their stress levels is an overall incredible project. And basically, one of the last things I wrote for the conclusion was that hopefully this garden will prove that the best path towards recovery is the greenest path. I really think that that's true in all walks of life. And so yeah, that was the final project. Overall, I loved the class. I really thought it was more than interesting. I was really skeptical coming into the class about whether or not I'd be excited about planting trees, because that's all I thought my dad did, but I found it's a lot more than that. So I'm really excited, and I'm going to keep looking into seeing what more I could do for landscape architecture, and definitely pursue it, because you never know. I mean, this could be a career for me, and I'm just going to keep going. So I thank you guys, and see you later.